Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a miserable Monday experience. Two matches, two horrible results due to initial positioning. We're going to do one as a solo, and then we'll show you one with me platooned. We're going to talk a lot in those two videos or those two games about why I choose to go places, why people should not choose to go some of the places they go, and what the consequences are. That if you want to buck the system, you want to go against the meta, you want to go somewhere different, just realize that if you're not going to the high percentage play areas, you are automatically gimping your team. Now, I'm not saying that this is a one-size-fits-all game where if you go to point A or B, you're going to win. But what I am saying is on a lot of the maps, if not most of them, probably all of them actually, there are meta positions, there are high percentage positions, and then there are low percentage plays. And yes, you can win on the low percentage plays at times, and if you've got a good reason to do so, a strange matchmaker matchup, you have a platoon, you're a top tier platoon, you have a plan to go somewhere unusual and press an advantage, those things can work. But I will tell you, in the long run, over tens of thousands of battles, if you continually go to the low percentage play position, it will hurt your win rate. I absolutely guarantee it. It'll hurt all your stats, actually. I have two good examples of that exact thing here. We are here on Cliff. On the first one here, I am losing control of everything. All right. On this first one, we're here on Himmel's Cliffdorf. I have spawned into the south. It's a regular battle, and I'm in my Char MLE 75. This is a interesting tank. It's also not a great map for scouts, especially early on. There's not a whole lot of places to go. I thought about going to the kind of tricky spot down here at G2, but I decided against it. Now look at the matchup. Top tiers at the tier 10 position are two TDs. They have a Sturv, we have an FV, and then two artillery. The bummer for us is they actually have a tier 9 heavy, and we do not. There's a couple of T95s in there, and then you've got some cats and dogs heavies in the middle, as well as some more TDs and a couple mediums. Although we only have one medium at tier 8 and they have two. That's the payback, I guess, for not having a 777. Now I want you to watch the initial positioning on this particular match. That is a fast tank that I have, so you can't tell a whole lot, but you can already get a sense of kind of what's going to happen here on this map. At least in terms of my team's positioning. We'll come up here and get some guys lit. It takes me a while to get reloaded. I'll wait till I'm close, see if we can get some shots in here. Okay, nope, and there is an LT-432. All right, you can tell now, basically, we've had a long enough of a drive that 2/3 of my team is basically going to be on the 1-2 line with the Scorpion camping. So it's me and ELC, a BZ-176, although it looks like the G-Sword did come up top, a C-130, and a 53 TP. That's it. That's gone up to the middle. And on this map, this is a map that really requires you to control all three flanks. As a general rule, most of the maps are like this, but this one is critically important. You can get away with leaving the east side, I wouldn't say unguarded, but you don't really need to invest a whole lot over there unless they start swinging around. It would be nice to have somebody at least over that way kind of keeping them honest. But this crossfire between the middle and the donut is really important right here. But this whole act, the 4502, the Char, the Leopard, two T95s, and an FV, plus the Scorpion in the back, which, okay, a Scorpion you're probably going to expect being in the back right there. But if you're going to invest that much on the 1-2 line, which in my opinion is a low percentage play in terms of at least winning and pushing on this map, then if you're going to overload like that, you got to do something with it. You really do. And if you look at this and go, wow, okay, they're Object, they're Sue, they're BZ. So that's some of their heavy hitters that actually went to the middle. Now let's let this thing develop a little bit longer. And I'm already a little bit worried based on what I'm seeing on this deployment. I'm kind of hoping, all right, if the 1-2 line guys have decided to go with the low percentage play, let's see if they can do something with it. And I'll just keep spotting the middle here, and hopefully this enemy team doesn't start to notice what's going on and push their advantage. And interesting as heck, the Sturv, and I don't know, man, maybe somebody just wanted to play a Sturv aggressively. That is a unusual play for a Sturv 103 to come into the middle like that. But if you look at what he's facing, he may have actually made a conscious decision to look at our team and say, you know what, I probably can go hold down right there. Yes, the arty is going to be a pain in my butt, but they're going to have a hard time penning me, and I can sneak up and take shots and start picking at hatches and weak spots and maybe even shoot over into the Scorpion back there. Also, they may have some good SA that there are a lot of tanks on the 1-2 line. Whatever the reason is, the Sturv has decided to do a fairly non-standard play, and it's actually a good thing for him right now. Our T-95s are just sort of sitting there. That's a lot of armor and a lot of gun to be just sitting waiting for the enemy team to push. It would be fantastic if the purple team decided to YOLO down the 1-2 line, and if they did, we are set. But that doesn't happen on this map very often. Yes, it does happen, but that is a low percentage play. It doesn't happen very much. And by golly, if it did, we'd have it sorted out. Now check this out. Look at the stack they've got in the middle. Even their Su-130 is forward. Now the Barask is pushing over to that side. He's going to start getting SA that we're not doing much. Wow. The only thing that's working out for us right now, of course, there goes our BZ-176. He gets absolutely hammered, tracked, and then blasted. The 53 TP goes around the corner, and he gets countered immediately by a Su-130. So not much of an advantage over on that side. Those guys will start fighting, and I'm just trying to keep things lit up right here. And we are already down 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks just like that, and they've lost one. And we're in big trouble, fellas. This game is all but over. Let's see if we can get some shots on this burr. He makes a runner and gets away. Our Char actually falls back and is now camping in the back, and all of a sudden we're down 1 to 6, and it's pretty much over, my friends. Honestly, from the very beginning, a poor deployment. Now, let's talk about what maybe should have happened here. I think, really, the T-95s could have pushed up in the middle. I know what their thinking is. I'd rather not go to the middle and get bombed by arty. That is absolutely 100% valid. It really is. But you also have to look at the beginning of the game, see what different tanks are in the game, and tell yourself, well, today it's going to rain a little bit, but I have to go to a place that's effective. And of course now they've gone face to face with the other two T-95s, and the other two T-95s are pushing in right there. And the enemy team knows they've got it. There's a bunch of guns down now. What I should have done right here, this guy actually has shots on me. I was unsure. I was really hoping he couldn't, but I think he's shooting right through that V and catching me right in the front right there. I should have just hit X, gone into speed mode, and just made a runner. I don't know if I would have ever got away, but just run off into these buildings, make their shots more difficult, fall back to the back edge, and just try to get some damage out of this thing. Maybe even just push around the corner and go face to face with the Su-130. Maybe even shotgun him in the face with the autocannon and ram him. Don't know, but this right here is not working. So I'm getting hit multiple places. Can't really stay away from him. And by the time I feel like, you know what, I need to get moving. Boom, boom. Lucky the Sturv didn't kill me right there. By the time I start running here, it's all over, and the object's kind of waiting for me to do it. And the team just gets absolutely rolled up right there. It was a weird matchmaker situation. I know if you're a TD player, you probably look at that and go, well, you know, I kind of agree with what the T-95s did. If they slowly go to the middle, they get absolutely bombarded. But the enemy team didn't have those thoughts necessarily. I mean, they had a Sturv 103 that came forward. They did have a heavy that we didn't have. That was unfortunate, really, because he pretty much dominated there by the time they killed our BZ. I was the only guy hanging out in the middle. Our mediums were all camping in the back. Same thing with the Leopard PTA in terms of that's a really soft tank, so I'm not surprised to see that guy hang out in the back and try to be a sniper. But the point of that is sometimes you get into a match and a matchup and a matchmaker, you know, the matchmaker has put together two teams, and yes, you're at a disadvantage, but you really have to play the game according to the best deployments, sometimes vice the best deployment for your tank, if you understand what I'm saying. Somebody has to get up there and get something going. If you decide not to, that's all well and good, but just understand you've gimped your team even more than it already was, more than likely, and you sort of earned the loss, right? You didn't do anything to help the win. You just tried to slow down the loss. And honestly, for me, I'd rather try to help a win, even if I'm trying to do it from behind the 8 ball. crummy matchmaker, crummy setup, bad players on the team, whatever the case may be, all those things combined, get your tank forward and try to do something in the critical places, whatever that tank is. I'm not saying take a light tank and go on the banana road in Himmelsdorf and try to play peekaboo. That's not my point. But this is a great illustration right here. We just had guys that just camped. They just sat back. And I bet they all had really good reasons in terms of in their mind about why they wanted to do that. We covered some of those. There's maybe even some more. But that is more of a defensive, well, I don't want to get hit by Artie, so I'm going to hide. That kind of idea, right? Try to get that out of your cranium and actually be more offensive in the game and try to get wins. I'm going to show you the next one is in a platoon. We're actually going to do a low percentage play, but we're also going to watch the team deployment. It's kind of an interesting thing that happens on this next one. All right, well, in the last one, right, we had a situation where we had kind of a strange matchmaker makeup for each team. The other team had a pretty significant advantage with the one heavy in there. I'm not saying that was the thing that won the game. But it wasn't very surprising, as we discussed, that people made some of the decisions that they made. Basically, they made decisions according to their tank without taking into consideration, in my opinion, the larger picture of the match and the critical terrain, what needed to be done on that map to win. Even if they didn't have the right exact tanks to do it, there were still things that needed to be done. In this case, we are here on Himmels Berlindorf, and I'm platooned with Zemke and Dr. Villain. We're discussing as the countdown goes by. Now, we're a platoon, and I kind of mentioned a platoon earlier on the other match right there, that if you make a non-standard or not meta play with your tank, oftentimes that is better done in a platoon, because at least you have 3 people that you can count on that are going in the same direction and doing the clever thing that you've come up to do, or that you've decided to do. And this isn't terribly clever, but what we decided to do with this is, since we've got all 3, well, we have 2 actually, good turrets, relatively anyway, we're going to go into the city, to the heavy brawl. What we say is, hey, let's go help the 3 heavies. And with 3 good players in fast-firing mediums, we can probably overwhelm these guys if our heavies are in there helping us. Maybe even the assault TD, like the TS5 or both of them, the TS5 and the Turtle. We should be able to make that critical difference quickly. And since that's the conscious decision we've made and we're all in on the game plan, if we get some help over there, that's a pretty good plan, actually. And that's one of the ways that you can break down standard metas. For example, on this one, the lights and the mediums tend to go south and the heavies tend to go north. This is also an all tier 8 battle, which is important, because it's not a case of, say, we were top tier mediums and it's a 3-tier battle and we ran into the north and got bogged down with some heavies up there while all our lower tier guys in the south get beat up. Okay, it's not really the case here. It's all the same tier. But we do need to get something going pretty quickly in the north. If we get bogged down and start to lose, we've already thrown a wrench into what's going to happen down the south, because more than likely the enemy team will deploy correctly. All right, or correctly is not the great word, but more meta. Okay, deploy more to the meta. As with all of these things, you've got to pay attention to what's actually happening in the match. These were all movement of our tanks discussions and things that are going through our head, and then you got to pay attention to where guys get lit, where the enemy tanks are showing up, and in this case, what your tanks are doing, because that was a great plan if the 3 heavies were in the same room and we were talking to them and they went, yeah, we're on board with that. But I want you to pay attention to the deployment down on the mini map. Yep, and pretty quickly our clever genius, non-meta, relatively low percentage play that could have been fantastic just gets destroyed. We zing on in here. I'm not really paying attention till about right here. We'll take a shot. We get by, and let's take a look. So Zemke and I get there first. We are fast mediums, not really a surprise. We have Dr. Villain being a little smarter back there. He has to, because he doesn't really play turret games with the KPZ. He's going to take a little bit of high ground in that back spot and looking to be able to sneak out and pop people. But the big problem we have right now is, one of the biggest ones, is the Renegade went to the south. Now, what sometimes happens when platoons of clever players decide to go places that other teammates might not expect them to, perhaps this is the case in the Renegade's case, they might then go, oh, They're not going to cover the south. I need to cover the south. So they've taken a tank that's fantastic in this particular brawl, and they've taken it south for some reason. So I don't know if he's just a camper anyway. I don't know if he assessed we went north, so he decided that he needed to go south. There's a lot of interplay possibility in there, and we don't have him here to discuss what his decision was. Whatever the reason, we have a Renegade that is not over here helping us, and that would have been a great tank to have there. Also, too, and in addition to the TS5, look where he is going. That is a nicely armored assault TD, and he's going to go sit on that little high spot there and hide, trying to snipe. And of all the sniper positions in the game early on, that is maybe the worst. I'll be honest with you, it might be the worst one. The fewest shots you could possibly get are probably in that spot at the beginning of the game. All right, so we have that going on. There's one other special thing. I want you to take a look at the mini-map over here and let me know. Remember what I said, who I thought might show up here to help us, and we could really get this overmatch going. Essentially, at the end of the day, there is no overmatch going on here, and it gets worse. We're discussing this. We're like, well, all right, we're going to start holding these guys, picking them off. And then I thought, well, maybe the South will win. And then I remembered, well, yeah, that'd be great if they had 3 other mediums that just went this way with them. Honestly, if the 3 of us didn't go to the middle, there wouldn't be anybody here. The turtle is showing up slowly because that's what turtles do. And good on him. He's actually, I believe, making a good decision. That's a high percentage play decision for him. That's a great tank to come in here and start beating people up. But, oh my gosh, what is the low doing, my friends? You know, there's just, you can't account for this kind of stuff all the time. And maybe he felt like, hey, I got a bunch of mediums in here. Let's go around and start beating up this BZ. Maybe they'll swarm in. But we also lost the middle. The WZ is in the middle. Oh my goodness. And it goes from bad to worse. Here comes their JT 8.8. That's a good tank for backup. Their T69 autoloader came in here. Their 56 TP is here. There's another TD showing up. The T28 assault TD showed up. And just like that, our clever plan of an overmatch is not only is it not an overmatch, they have overmatched us. Good news is at least the South isn't completely in trouble, although they're not in great shape based on what you can see right there. The Lurva gets in there and just starting to get obliterated. It looks like the BZ just absolutely nuked him. We can't really push out without getting absolutely shredded by all their guns over there. And look at that TNH. Our TNH has taken himself essentially out of the game, to include an RHM and a Su-130, who, and these may be the second 2 worst spots potentially early on in this game to put a TD. If the enemy team comes around the outside of on this road, great. That's a great spot for them over there. They can just shred them if they happen to drive across there. But that's why most people don't, from either side, go across this road early on, because either from our side, the TDs will be back here shredding you, or from their side, the TDs will be back over here shredding you. Although that's probably not happened today because they're 8.8 and they're T28, but we haven't seen the RHM from what I can see, or necessarily the ship tick. It's getting ugly, fellas. Getting absolutely ugly. And now all we're trying to do is figure out a way to take this theoretically clever plan and resuscitate it into something that can maybe work. And it's a slow bleed. Every time we poke, just look, we're completely outnumbered here. 3 of our tanks are on the north side. The TS5 is completely out of the game. The Renegade is requesting shots on people, I guess. He's got his own problems down in the south right now. I'm going to come over here and get a clever shot on the WZ. This will be awesome. We'll just go ahead and shoot him. No, okay, armor not hit. That's great. Oh, and we get tracked by the WZ-132, who is in the middle. So I don't really want to poke again there to get blasted by the WZ, and if not killed by him, finished off more than likely. Sorry, blasted by the BZ, and then more than likely finished off by the WZ. And I got a whole 0 damage right now. So my friends, I'm saying you have to. You don't have to do anything. You do any damn thing you want, quite honestly. But if you want to increase your win rate in this game, you want to deploy better. If you have a good good reason to not deploy to the kind of meta positions, the good spots for your tank, by all means go for it, and I wish you luck. As long as it's made on a good decision or for a good reason, a good decision made for a good reason, then go for it. But too often I find things like this, where the low wanders across the inside, completely exposed. The Renegade goes to camp down the south for reasons unknown. And the TNH 100 is on the north side and now dead over there. And not one heavy other than sort of the Lurva came into this middle spot. And honestly, the Lurva, and even the TNH to a large extent, and the Renegade are fantastic in this spot right here. Absolutely great tanks to come in here and take shots. I think I don't even get the guy dead on this one. I want to say I bounce again. No, I did get him. Yay. 1 kill. That's 16 damage, alright? Oh, this is about as miserable Monday as it gets. Zemke's hanging out in the middle. He's the last guy. There's 3 of us. And this is where the great comeback comes in, because I tricked you. No, it's not true. We're not coming back. This is not happening at all. Missed him. Wasn't ready. The Senlat comes around. He becomes a thorn in my side, actually. Pretty funny. No idea how I hit this. He shows up over there and starts putting little shots at me. I can't quite get to him because he's doing a nice job with the way he's doing it. Yep, see, he just backed out of that. He's got 1 hit point and he's going to gather another 300 damage or something off of me. Got him. Dead. No. Missed. He hits me for 20. Oh, he's hitting me with HE. I didn't even notice that. That's pretty funny. Maybe he doesn't do as much damage as I thought. He knows that the Sinlak has good HE rounds. Unfortunately, he's kind of hitting me in the armored front, I guess. And all of a sudden, it's down to 2 of us. Just the 2 of us. Watch, he'll be waiting there for me. Try to come around, see if we can shoot him. Oh, shot in the butt by the 56. Boom! And then the RHM in the face. He's gone all the way around, actually. He's got to come all the way around to the north. And I got a whole 484 damage. No assist and block 250. I would say probably the majority of losses in this game are from these kinds of situations where people position poorly and react poorly, which is kind of easy to say in a general sense, but I'm talking more specifically the initial positioning. And I think that's probably very true, that most, right, even if it's 51% or 60%, I would say most of the losses are because of the initial positioning in the game, to be quite honest. There's obviously games where people go to good positions and they grind it out and one team just wins, even with people all generally going to good positions. And I try to avoid saying the right position. That's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm more saying good positions for the match, the matchmaker, and your tank. Those can change. They are not always the same position, much like the first game that I showed you. Some people needed to step up and go to uncomfortable places in that game in order to cover the places that meta-wise win that map. This was a similar situation in that the heavies needed to go to the meta-heavy position to help us win that game. And regardless of whether we went there or not, if they'd have come with us, we'd have had a much better chance here in the north, although the south was in trouble anyway. So we'll take that as part of our problem that we didn't go down to the south. That's understood. But before you even get worried too much about that, the heavies needed to position better, just out off the get-go, just to help us out. And then if they were there with us, maybe we shut down that north faster or at all. We didn't shut it down at all here. Maybe we're able to compete better in the north, and then we can turn to the south because we have that grouping of a platoon of 3 good medium players and the heavies that helped win up there. But didn't happen. Our heavies went in piecemeal. They got slaughtered. The guys down south were outnumbered because we weren't there. They got slaughtered. And then eventually we got taken out in the north because it's difficult to take on the things we were taking on with 3 mediums. We were actually in the brawl area with our mediums while the heavies were futzing around. One of them threw their tank away. One of them positioned horribly, and the other one went south and did not much. Let me know what you think down below. That's my miserable Monday experience for those particular 2. I like to beat on that drum a lot because I think it's so important in this game if you want to increase your win rate. I'll say it one last time before we go. It is not a case at all of me saying you must go here, here, or here. What I'm saying is there are high percentage meta positions for tanks on all of the maps. Yes, they do change to some extent. Yes, depending on where people go, you should flex, reposition, rethink, replan, whatever you want to call it. That is all an absolute player. But if at the very beginning you choose very poor places to go to, either based on your tank or based on the matchmaker or the map, then you have at the very beginning lessened your chance to win that match. That's the biggest thing I think people should take away from this. Poor positioning immediately gimps your team to some extent. Whether or not it's able to overcome that is another question, but you've already decreased the odds of winning pretty much immediately by bad early positioning. That's all I've got for today. Have a good one. We will see you.